So, Mitch, how do you guys decide what's a bettable event? Is that something that like a team of people do?
Yeah, we have a whole trading team. They sort of manage the book, and there's again heavily regulated, so we don't really get to decide, right?
Oh, so you can't say like, "Hey, on the next play in this game, if they get a field goal, there's an extra thing." You can't just randomly do that whenever you want.
Well, within limits, we know what the regulations are, so we're kind of bounded by what geo we're working in. But yeah, and you have to get regulatory sign off for like anything, basically.
But you can issue real-time propositions, like, during the game.
Yeah, we have a stable, right? We have a pricing engine and a stable that outlines what we can and can't have folks betting on, right? Within that, and any given geo, there are propositions that they've said, this doesn't work for us, or
Mitch, can you give us an example of something that the regulators will not let you offer as a bettable event, like something innocuous?
I don't want to say anything.
Okay.
Regulators are.
All right. Well, maybe try it this way. We can delete this too. But if I wanted to bet on whether or not LeBron James is going to drink his Gatorade in the first 2 minutes of the basketball game, is that a bettable event?
Honestly, I can't answer that question. It can have different answers for different geolocations, and there's a whole process I'm not like involved in for determining all of that.
Okay, that's fair. I was just wondering if we're slowly going to this world of where like you can basically bet on anything you want, anywhere, anytime. And you can log on to one of these betting platforms and just like make random bets about world events or anything. But maybe the regulators will slow that down, so it's going to be a long while before we get to a place like that.
We'll see how it goes. I mean, there's a lot of demand for betting in unorthodox things like esports, for instance. There's a lot of esports betting going on. That gets very interesting because esports is just a video game. So now are we saying any video game we can bet on? And how does that work?
Well, if you do, then how do you regulate it to prevent the e-gamers from cheating or throwing a game or something like that? Like, we kind of know how to do that in baseball and football, but that's not something that we think about when we're just watching a video game going.
I'm not convinced that we know how to do that in the real world, in the I say the organic world versus the digital world.
Well, certainly people have been prosecuted for it. So, we have proven it in court, at least to some degree, right? Pete Rose and the Chicago Black Sox, whatever, right?
Yeah, esports is interesting because the opportunities for gaming things, no pun intended, I think is much higher and much easier to hide, right? Like the developers could actually impact the outcome of a game if they wanted to, right? In real time, they could make a change on the server side based on a bet they made. All of a sudden, your character's nerfed just slightly, so you don't really notice, but you lose that match. That was the outcome the developer wanted.
Yeah, I think the upside though is adoption, right? If it makes your sport more interesting and entertaining, there's incentive to like figure it out.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that things get more intense or exciting when there's something else on the line than just your love of a team, right? It's like if they win, I win. If they lose, I lose.
Well, it's funny because hanging out with poker players and professional gamblers in general, they're always making prop bets to each other. Just side bets, right? I'll just sit at the poker table and be like, $10,000, the next card's a red card, or whatever. They'll literally just do anything, or they'll bet each other. Like I remember one was a vegetarian, and someone bet him that he couldn't $10,000 if you can eat a cheeseburger and not throw up for 30 minutes. They'll do anything they can bet on. They'll bet on.
I think my favorite weird bet was I think it was a World Series of Poker where someone bet another person there that they couldn't navigate the entire weekend doing only lunges. So they couldn't walk normal at all.
That's so random. Did they do it?
And I don't think the guy made it. I can't remember what happened, but I think it was too much after the second day, like he could barely move.
Just walk into your room and back from the table. Yeah, forget it.
After the second lunch, I'd cry uncle. Like, there's no way I could make it to the second day.
Take my 10 grand. I give up. Well, you're talking about these marketplaces. Are there Ethereum sports betting applications that work on chain that use? Are you aware of anything like that?
I mean, I'm sure you can find it. I wouldn't know where they are.
I like this idea that Steve had, that we're moving towards a future where you can bet anybody on anything. So the idea that someone could issue a proposition on Ethereum, is backed by some oracle that goes and pulls whatever real information from the world. That's a cool idea.
We often try to think about, more standard but innovative things in our space, right? Standard bets, but like ways to do them differently, ways to do them in a more exciting package, basically. But you run into very quickly like the devil's in the details, right? You have to be able to price something. That's often very, very complicated. And that price has to stay fresh with real-time information. And I think people underestimate the difficulty of building like a sports book.